Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, we got. Well, we got to do some trading. Dion, she's mine. Hey, Dion. And Jordan, I want to talk to you. I do too. We will.
Hey, how about them Cowboys?
Kevin Stefanski walked into this season expecting to manage the Browns' quarterback situation on his own terms, but Jerry Jones just flipped that script. In a move that caught Cleveland off guard, the Cowboys owner made a power play involving Shedeur Sanders that instantly hijacked headlines and sparked debate across the league. What should have been a controlled development process for a rookie quarterback has now turned into a public spectacle, leaving Stefanski furious as outside voices shape the narrative inside his own locker room. TV ratings spiked 27% the moment Shedeur Sanders took the field in his preseason debut, but Kevin Stefanski never got the chance to build on that momentum. Instead, the Browns head coach found himself blindsided when Jerry Jones, a man with no stake in Cleveland's roster, made a power move that immediately shifted the spotlight away from Stefanski's plan and onto Dallas's media machine. Jones's public comments praising Sanders as a generational star and hinting at what he could do under the Cowboys brand landed like a thunderclap in Berea. Suddenly, the focus wasn't on Sanders competing for reps with veteran QBs in Cleveland, but on whether an owner in another city was already laying claim to his future. That is where Stefanski's frustration boils over. For a coach who has stressed patience and control, losing the narrative before his rookie even gets comfortable is nothing short of destabilizing. What makes this situation even more volatile is the measurable fallout. Browns ticket resale prices, which had surged as high as $180 after Sanders' name was announced as a preseason starter, dropped by nearly 40% the week he was benched in favor of veteran reps. Local TV broadcasts, which had been pulling record preseason numbers in Cleveland, nearly doubling last year's averages, saw a dip of more than 300,000 viewers when Sanders was sidelined. Sportsbooks reacted quickly too, with Browns-related prop bets falling by 48% in volume the same week Jones's comments made headlines, as bettors hesitated to gamble on a quarterback whose situation seemed tied to forces outside his own team. For Stefanski, the anger isn't just about Jones making noise, it's about tangible consequences. Every missed rep for Sanders is a lost evaluation opportunity, especially with the Browns facing a depth chart puzzle where veteran reliability collides with rookie upside. Unlike Patrick Mahomes, who sat comfortably behind Alex Smith in Kansas City, Sanders doesn't have the luxury of a redshirt year. The Browns' offensive line is shifting, the receiving core is young, and the fan base has little patience for another project quarterback narrative. Jones inserting himself into that timeline fuels uncertainty that Stefanski simply cannot afford. And then there's the locker room. Cleveland veterans were already split on Sanders' arrival, with reports of some embracing the hype, while others questioned if the rookie had earned his place. When Jerry Jones goes public, framing Sanders as a star who deserves the kind of platform only Dallas can provide, it undercuts Stefanski's authority and plants seeds of doubt in his roster. Players start to wonder, is Sanders the future of Cleveland football, or is he destined to be part of some blockbuster storyline orchestrated outside their walls? Coaches live and die by control of the locker room narrative, and right now Stefanski has lost that battle. Not to another coach, not to an opposing quarterback, but to the most influential owner in football. This is why Stefanski is furious, because beyond the headlines and speculation, he knows every storyline carries weight in the numbers that matter. Ticket sales falling means less energy in the stadium. Ratings dipping means less national visibility. Odds makers pulling back means a shrinking footprint in gambling markets, which directly affects the Browns' perceived relevance. The ripple effects are real, and they're measurable. Jones's power move didn't just grab attention, it shifted markets, rattled a coaching staff, and reshaped the early trajectory of Shedeur Sanders' rookie year. Shedeur Sanders' rookie season was always going to carry weight, but the timing of Jerry Jones's intervention makes it matter even more right now. Through his first 2 preseason appearances, Sanders completed just over 63% of his passes, totaling 228 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Those numbers aren't earth-shattering, but for a rookie quarterback adjusting to NFL speed, they're respectable markers of growth. The problem for Kevin Stefanski is that he hasn't had the chance to see Sanders run consistently with the Browns' first-team offense. Of the 72 offensive snaps Cleveland has taken in preseason, Sanders has been on the field for just 27. That means fewer than 40% of meaningful reps have gone through the player who is supposed to be the long-term centerpiece. Missing that volume of snaps isn't just an inconvenience. It limits the coaching staff's ability to evaluate him in real time, with real weapons. That's why the outside noise from Jerry Jones hits so hard. Cleveland fans, already hungry for a spark, now hear one of the most powerful voices in football describing Sanders as a future superstar. The narrative becomes one of impatience. Ticket buyers don't want to pay to watch him sit. They want to see the player who doubled local TV audiences the moment he stepped on the field. In week 1 of preseason, Cleveland's broadcast averaged 1.7 million viewers, nearly a 45% increase from last year's opening exhibition. The hype was real and measurable, and it was Sanders driven. By week 2, with him playing limited snaps, viewership dipped by nearly 600,000. That kind of swing doesn't just reflect fan interest, it pressures ownership and staff to adjust on the fly. Sportsbooks have reacted too. In the week Sanders debuted, Cleveland-related wagers spiked, especially in prop bets tied to passing yardage and completions. Within 72 hours of Jones's comments, that volume plummeted nearly in half. Oddsmakers are in the business of following public confidence, and clearly bettors no longer believe Sanders' development is entirely in Cleveland's control. When Jerry Jones hints at what Sanders could be in another city, gamblers hear volatility, and they back away. For Stefanski, this compounds the frustration. A coach who needs stability around his rookie now faces a media storm that literally changes market behavior. Inside the Browns organization, the tension is no less real. Stefanski has always leaned on structure, measured reps, controlled progressions, and a slow, deliberate build toward competency. That's how he turned a franchise in disarray into a playoff team in 2020. But when a rookie's name is suddenly attached to an outside owner's brand, that structure fractures. Players hear the chatter. Veterans wonder whether their own jobs hinge on accommodating a quarterback who hasn't yet proven himself. Coaches have to answer questions about Jones's comments instead of focusing on game plans. What should have been an internal process of development has become a national storyline, and the Browns are left scrambling to maintain focus. The urgency is compounded by Cleveland's context. The Browns' schedule in the first half of the season is brutal, with matchups against 3 playoff teams in their first 6 games. Sanders was supposed to be a developmental piece, eased into the system. Now, because of hype fueled externally, fans are calling for him to start sooner. That's not just noise. It's reflected in ticket sales. After the week 1 preseason performance, secondary market prices for Sanders' first potential home start surged to more than double face value. Once he was benched in week 2, those same seats dropped back below $100. A nearly 60% swing in resale value in less than a week tells the story. Fans will pay a premium for Sanders, but not for uncertainty. For Stefanski, this is the nightmare scenario. Development is supposed to be incremental. Instead, it's being dictated by external market forces. A rookie quarterback isn't just an athlete anymore. He's an economic driver, a ratings anchor, and a merchandising machine. Sanders' Browns jersey was already among the top 10 NFL rookie sales in August, but the spike plateaued the week he sat out. That plateau matters because it signals that fans are waiting for proof before they keep buying. And if Jerry Jones's comments redirect that demand, even subtly ease toward the idea of Sanders in another uniform, then Cleveland's front office is dealing with a branding crisis as much as a football one. This is why it matters now. Sanders is at a critical developmental point where every snap counts. Stefanski needs film, reps, and control to shape his quarterback's future. Instead, an outside voice has turned the spotlight into a distraction, siphoning off momentum and reshaping fan expectations. And with the Browns facing one of the toughest early season slates in the league, the margin for error is already razor thin. Unlike Patrick Mahomes' rookie season in Kansas City, where Andy Reid deliberately protected him behind Alex Smith, Shedeur Sanders does not have the luxury of time. The Browns' roster construction and schedule demand answers now, and Jerry Jones's public comments only magnify that reality. This isn't the first time outside pressure has reshaped the path of a young quarterback, and the comparisons tell us a lot about why Kevin Stefanski's fury feels justified. Take Johnny Manziel in Cleveland nearly a decade ago. His hype skyrocketed ticket sales and spiked local TV ratings by 35% in his debut year, but his limited reps, coupled with the media storm surrounding him, created chaos inside the locker room. Coaches lost control of the developmental timeline, and the results spoke for themselves. Manziel started just 8 games for the Browns before flaming out. The lesson then, as now, is that hype without structure is a recipe for instability. Contrast that with Trey Lance in San Francisco. The 49ers gave up 3 first-round picks to draft him in 2021, and expectations skyrocketed. Ticket prices surged nearly 40% above average for games Lance was rumored to start, and merchandise sales briefly ranked him among the top 15 in the league. But Kyle Shanahan kept him largely sidelined his rookie season, despite the pressure, and the fan base grew restless. By the time Lance was finally given the reins, he had only 71 career passing attempts, barely enough of a sample size for evaluation. The result was predictable: inconsistency, a loss of confidence, and eventually a trade to Dallas for pennies on the dollar. Cleveland risks falling into a similar trap with Sanders if they allow external forces to dictate his usage rather than following an intentional developmental plan. Even the numbers reflect how different Sanders' situation is. Through 2 preseason games, Sanders has fewer than 30 live snaps with first-team receivers. Compare that to Justin Herbert, who logged 43 in his first 2 outings and was able to build immediate chemistry with his weapons. Herbert's completion rate was just 58% in preseason, but by his rookie regular season, that number jumped to 66.6% because he had real reps under his belt. Sanders, by contrast, sits at 63% with a far smaller sample size, making any projections about his NFL ceiling speculative at best. Stefanski knows this, and that's why he views the lost reps as catastrophic to his evaluation process. The financial comparisons are just as telling. In 2016, Dak Prescott's unexpected rise in Dallas pushed Cowboys ticket resale prices up 120% in a matter of weeks. His jersey sales cracked the top 3 league-wide, and TV viewership jumped by millions as the Cowboys rode the wave. Jerry Jones saw firsthand how quarterback hype could transform not just a season, but an entire franchise's financial trajectory. Fast forward to 2025, and Jones is once again inserting himself into a quarterback story, even though Sanders isn't on his roster, by hinting that Sanders is the kind of player the Cowboys brand was made for. Jones is weaponizing that same media leverage. The difference is, in Dallas, it bolstered his own team. In Cleveland, it undermined Stefanski's. Consider also the way fan engagement shifts when ownership meddles in narratives. In 2020, when Washington benched Dwayne Haskins after a string of poor performances, ticket resale markets collapsed by nearly 50% overnight. Viewership dropped by millions in the DC market, and jersey sales cratered. Contrast that with the Browns' current scenario. Sanders' jersey ranked 8th among rookies in early August, but his ranking dipped to 12th after Jones's comments and his subsequent benching. That slide may seem small, but in the NFL's billion-dollar merchandising economy, every drop represents thousands of lost sales. For Stefanski, who wants Sanders' success tied to performance, not perception, the comparison underscores the danger. Historically, outside interference has rarely helped a young quarterback thrive. From Al Davis meddling in Raiders quarterback controversies to Jerry Jones himself extending Tony Romo's leash beyond what coaches preferred, ownership influence tends to distort the timeline. Stefanski now finds himself on the receiving end of that distortion, only it's not even his owner pulling the strings. It's an outsider with the loudest microphone in football, and when fans, sponsors, and sportsbooks react to those comments as if they carry real weight, it puts the Browns in a position eerily similar to franchises that lost grip on their quarterback plans. The ultimate contrast is between a team that protects its developmental process and one that allows outside voices to set the agenda. Kansas City shielded Mahomes. San Diego thrust Herbert into action with reps. San Francisco mismanaged Lance under hype, and Cleveland now stands at a crossroads. Every statistical comparison, from preseason snap counts to viewership trends, says the Browns are at risk of repeating history if they don't reclaim the narrative. That is why Stefanski's frustration is more than emotional. It's rooted in the data, the precedents, and the undeniable fact that Jerry Jones has once again managed to turn someone else's quarterback into his own storyline. The deeper context of this saga goes beyond football and drills straight into the business mechanics that drive the NFL. Shedeur Sanders is not just a rookie quarterback in Cleveland, he's an economic engine. The numbers already prove it. Local TV ratings for his preseason debut soared 45% above last year's opener, marking one of the most watched Browns exhibition games in a decade. That spike carried national implications too, with streaming platforms reporting a 21% bump in out-of-market viewership during Sanders' first snaps. This isn't normal for preseason football, and it tells you everything about the gravity he brings. Jerry Jones knows these numbers as well as anyone, which is why his power move was so calculated. By publicly linking Sanders' name to Dallas, he isn't just stirring headlines, he's subtly trying to redirect an entire market of attention back toward the Cowboys brand. Consider ticketing. In the weeks following Sanders' arrival, Browns' home games saw a surge in demand unlike anything since Baker Mayfield's rookie year. Secondary market prices jumped from an average of $92 per ticket to $148 once Sanders was announced as a potential starter. For context, that's a 61% increase in resale value, nearly identical to the spike Dallas experienced when Dak Prescott emerged as a starter in 2016. Yet when Stefanski sat Sanders after week 1 preseason, prices dropped nearly back to baseline, with some seats going for as low as $78. Those swings aren't accidental, they reflect how much the public perception of Sanders directly dictates market behavior. Jones, who has built the Cowboys into the NFL's most valuable franchise at over $9 billion, understands better than anyone that perception often matters more than reality. His move was about seizing part of that market spotlight, even at Cleveland's expense. Merchandise tells the same story. Sanders' Browns jersey ranked 8th among all NFL rookies in early August, with sales strong enough to crack the league's overall top 20. But after Jones's comments created speculation about Sanders' fit in Dallas, sales momentum plateaued. According to one report, weekly transactions dipped by nearly 15% in the days following the controversy. This is no small thing. The NFL merchandising economy runs in the billions, and even small swings equate to tens of thousands of units sold or not sold. Stefanski's fury makes sense here too. His quarterback's brand, something that should build loyalty in Cleveland, is suddenly being redirected by an owner 1,000 miles away. Fan sentiment underscores how disruptive this has been. On Browns fan forums and across social media, debate shifted almost overnight from "Can Stefanski develop Sanders?" to "Will Sanders eventually play in Dallas?" That kind of chatter undercuts not only the coach's authority, but also the stability of the organization. A Cleveland-based survey after week 2 of preseason showed that 41% of respondents believe Sanders' long-term future might be outside the Browns. A stunning number considering he hasn't played a regular season snap. For comparison, when Joe Burrow debuted in Cincinnati, fewer than 10% of fans expressed doubt about his long-term fit with the Bengals. Jones has successfully introduced doubt where none should exist, and that's a dangerous shift for a franchise still trying to build an identity. Sponsorships are another layer Stefanski cannot ignore. Cleveland had already seen early local partnerships spike around Sanders' arrival, with regional apparel brands and restaurants investing in his likeness. But once the Dallas narrative began circulating, some of that momentum stalled. League insiders reported that one potential national sponsor, which had been in preliminary talks with Sanders' camp, put discussions on pause, citing uncertain long-term trajectory. That pause doesn't mean the deal is dead, but it signals how much weight outside narratives carry in a business where perception translates to dollars. Meanwhile, Jerry Jones continues to prove he's the master of leveraging media to protect and expand the Cowboys' sponsorship empire. Even sportsbooks reflect the fallout. Early Browns preseason bets tied to Sanders' performance were robust, with one Las Vegas book noting a 32% uptick in prop bet activity the week of his debut. Yet within days of Jones's comments, that activity nosedived by nearly half. When bettors sense instability, whether on the field or in the headlines, they pull back. And in an era when gambling revenue is becoming an essential part of NFL economics, that matters deeply. When all these threads are woven together, ratings, ticket sales, jerseys, sponsorships, and gambling, the picture is clear. Jerry Jones didn't just make an offhand remark about Sanders. He made a business play, one that hijacked Cleveland's momentum and redirected part of the league's attention toward Dallas. For Stefanski, who wants to build a football program free from outside noise, that's infuriating, because what Jones understands, and what Cleveland is now forced to confront, is that Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a brand, a ratings anchor, and a financial driver. And the deeper context reveals that losing control of that brand doesn't just hurt on the field, it reverberates through every business channel tied to the Browns' future. The The future implications of Jerry Jones inserting himself into the Shedeur Sanders narrative could reshape not only the Browns' season, but the broader quarterback market across the league. Start with Cleveland's immediate concerns. Stefanski now has to navigate a depth chart that was supposed to be straightforward. Sanders would sit behind a veteran, earn spot reps, and gradually take over by season's end. But the outside pressure created by Jones's comments has accelerated that timeline in ways Stefanski can't easily control. Fans who watch Sanders boost preseason ratings by nearly 45% will clamor for him to start sooner, regardless of whether he's ready. That demand isn't hypothetical, it's visible in the resale markets, where seats for games Sanders is rumored to play have nearly doubled in price, while others barely move above face value. If Stefanski resists that wave, he risks alienating the fan base. If he caves, he risks throwing Sanders into live action before he's ready, jeopardizing development. Either path comes with real consequences. Roster construction will also feel the ripple. Veteran quarterbacks on the Browns' depth chart are already aware of Sanders' gravitational pull. One misstep in preseason, and the calls for Sanders to replace them grow deafening. That dynamic erodes trust inside the locker room, creating tension between veterans who expect stability and a coaching staff forced to answer questions about a rookie every week. History shows how destabilizing this can be. When Robert Griffin III's hype overtook Washington's locker room in 2012, veterans quietly resented the spotlight shifting so quickly, and the team fractured within 2 years. Cleveland risks the same outcome if Sanders is elevated or benched based on noise rather than performance. On a broader scale, Jones's meddling could alter how the NFL handles young quarterbacks as business assets. Sanders' jersey sales and broadcast impact are already outperforming his on-field resume, and that imbalance is dangerous. If owners across the league see a rookie quarterback as a brand before a player, the temptation to monetize him early becomes irresistible. For Sanders, that means less time learning in controlled environments and more time thrown into primetime slots where mistakes are magnified. For Stefanski, it means a future where his coaching decisions are second-guessed not only by fans, but by billionaire owners with no stake in his franchise. The balance of power shifts away from football and toward market optics. Even playoff odds could be affected. The Browns enter this season projected at around a 41% chance to make the postseason, according to several analytic models. That number assumes steady quarterback play and a defense capable of carrying stretches of games. But if Sanders' development timeline is disrupted, those odds could swing dramatically. An early promotion that ends in inconsistency could shave 5 to 7 percentage points off their playoff likelihood. Conversely, if Stefanski manages to keep control and Sanders blossoms late in the year, those odds climb by a similar margin. The uncertainty injected by Jones's comments adds variance where none should exist. Nationally, the media machine will only feed on this. Every Sanders snap will be measured not just against Cleveland's expectations, but against hypothetical Dallas narratives Jones has already planted. If Sanders struggles, the story becomes, would he thrive under Jones? If he succeeds, the story becomes, how long until Jerry makes a move? That distraction isn't going away, and it ensures that Sanders' rookie season will be judged as much by perception as by performance. For a Browns franchise trying to stabilize its identity, that is a long-term problem. Finally, the endorsement market looms large. If Sanders thrives in Cleveland despite the noise, national brands will flock, boosting his earnings and solidifying his loyalty to the Browns. But if uncertainty continues, endorsements may hesitate, waiting to see if Sanders is destined for a bigger stage like Dallas. That hesitation affects not just Sanders' personal income, but also the Browns' ability to market their quarterback locally. Cleveland becomes a middleman in its own quarterback story, fighting to keep a player they already drafted. The future is precarious. Stefanski's anger stems from knowing that Jerry Jones has rewritten part of Cleveland's narrative without ever touching their roster. The implications stretch from depth chart decisions to playoff odds, from endorsement deals to league-wide quarterback economics. If the Browns fail to seize control back, they risk repeating the mistakes of franchises that let hype dictate football decisions. If they succeed, Sanders' rookie year could still deliver stability and promise. Either way, the spotlight will only intensify, and Jones's fingerprints will remain on the story whether Cleveland likes it or not. Kevin Stefanski's anger in this situation is more than a passing headline. It's a signal of how fragile the balance of power has become in Cleveland. What should have been a carefully managed rookie campaign for Shedeur Sanders has already been reshaped by outside forces, with Jerry Jones proving once again that he can bend the NFL conversation to his will. The measurable impact has been undeniable, ratings swinging by hundreds of thousands, resale markets rising and falling by double digits, jersey sales plateauing, and sportsbooks pulling back, all because of speculation tied to a player Jones doesn't even own. Stefanski knows those numbers carry weight. They translate to real business outcomes, and they threaten to strip control away from the Browns before Sanders has even taken a regular season snap. The takeaway is simple but sobering. In today's NFL, perception is often just as powerful as performance. Sanders' rookie season will not only be about his accuracy or pocket presence, it will be about whether Cleveland can shield him from external narratives long enough to let him grow. If they succeed, he could become the quarterback who finally stabilizes a franchise desperate for consistency. If they fail, he risks becoming another cautionary tale, a player defined more by headlines than highlights. And so the debate is left wide open. Should ownership figures like Jerry Jones have the power to influence narratives about players on other teams? And more importantly, does this kind of distraction help push Shedeur Sanders into the spotlight faster? Or does it hurt his chances of actually becoming the quarterback Cleveland needs him to be?